if they form the government, there's those really big salaries that they get, so they might be more flexible on that. Maybe, well, we'll form it now and then we'll deal with it later, whatever, you don't know. But the thing about direct democracy is that's why working for direct democracy is better. Because with direct democracy, you can repeal the property tax, the water charges, you could revisit the oil and gas leases, because you're in control. These are all things that have been done in your name for you, and you had no say over it, right? And so the reality is that all these politicians, they want to get elected, and yeah, let's face it, I'm a politician too. I'm a politician too. But the reality is that just like Sinn Féin, we would not form a government, if we got into that position, unless we would have a referendum on giving the people the power of referendum back. So what you do, you basically, nothing changes. The only thing you do is you go, oh, power of referendum, take it away from the government, give it to the people. That means that the government can no longer have a referendum. It can't initiate referendum. Because what the government does right now, it initiates a referendum on whatever subject that they feel that they want to initiate a referendum on. And if you don't vote the way that they want, what do? They do it again. Right? And that's democratic, right? But the point is, if you take that power away from them, can they do it again? Can they even initiate a referendum? No. Only you can. So what that means is it puts you in charge, doesn't it? So it means that nothing changes. If it's Sinn Féin and Fianna Fáil, or if it's Fine Gael and Labour, or if it's Direct Democracy Ireland and whoever, it doesn't matter. Because first of all, when you get into power, there's a lot of laws and things that have already been created. So that's just going to run, because you have this huge government bureaucracy that's already running. And you just have a new team that kind of gets into the saddle and rides the horse. Like Fine Gael is carrying out Fianna Fáil policy, aren't they? And we're going like, oh, Fine Gael, you're terrible, right? And they're doing only what they've been given to do, right? Number one. Number two. Now you could also say like, okay, well, Mr. Enda Kenny, I know that when you were in the opposition, you said that property tax was evil, and that you should never have a property tax, right? You could say that. You say, and it's proof. He did say that. He did say that. But what is he doing now, right? So what does the guy stand for? What do any of them stand for? When they're in opposition, when all the parties are in opposition, they care so much about the people, right? And they're so outraged by what the government is doing. So outraged. I can't believe it. The moment they get in, they forget all the things that they were outraged about, and they start implementing the exact things that they were outraged about. So how can you vote for people like that? Doesn't something need to be changed? Doesn't this system need to be changed?
Yes.
And the thing about it is that you had that power before, but the very crafty politicians, when they came into power, they changed it. They took it out, right? So now here you are. So if you would have had all this power all along, we probably wouldn't be in the situation that we're in now, right? Because just the threat of the people saying, what? You're going to bail out the banks? You're going to do? Forget it. Oh no, they're going to go out and do the signatures. Forget it. No, we'll come up with a better idea, right? So the point is, so the thing about it is that these guys are never going to do anything. They're never going to do anything, and you're going to get more of the same. And I imagine you're sick of it already, but you're going to be more sick, And not only that, guess what? These people have the power over your lives. The decisions they make, when they add a universal social charge on your paycheck, what does that mean? That means that whatever it is, I think it's 7% of your paycheck. That means that 7% of the time you're working, you're the money that you could have been earning to make a car payment with, a house payment, a vacation, take a vacation somewhere, after a year it adds up, You can't do that, right? So that's what these people have. So these people who say one thing, do another, have that kind of power over your life. So in a sense, they're wrecking our lives. They're making us unhappy in a way. by what they're doing. So what we need to do is we need to actually see, like, this is not a big theory. It's like, oh yeah, great. I went to a Direct Democracy Ireland meeting and I learned about this new system. And now I can go to the pub and drink and have a drink and say, hey, have you heard about the new system? And everybody can have a big debate on it. Like, oh yeah, that's really cool. That's not cool, whatever. And it's just informational. See, what we're talking about is something real here. The rubber has to meet the road. And guess what? You're the rubber. You guys need to engage. That's what we're trying to do. That's what we're doing. We're building our case. We want everybody to engage in this and to help us change this country. To actually bring that power back to the people, because you will be empowered then. You will actually be empowered. You won't be sitting around anymore going like, hey, I'm really helpless. I can't do anything. Hey, I'm really pissed off. Let's go down to Grafton Street and let's get some signatures. And you could actually get enough signatures and you could actually cause a referendum on whatever you want. Like, hey, you know what? I think Norway has a great deal on the oil and we have a crappy deal. In fact, if we could get Norway's deal on the oil, you know what? We probably wouldn't need property tax and water taxes and all these things, right? So we could revisit that, So you need to get activated. We all need to work together to try to make this a reality, So, and the other reality is that most likely they're not going to cover it that much. So it has to be underground. It has to be almost like through social networking and wins. See, if we can win some elections, then all of a sudden they have to cover us, you see. So especially if we could win a European election, I think that would blow the doors off. They'd have to cover us, and then the whole country would learn about what we're talking about. Right now, they're much more interested in maybe making a big deal out of maybe some of the people that are in the party, because then you don't have to actually talk about the core philosophy. You talk about the person in the party. Maybe whatever you want to come up with. Like, do you realize that the founder of the party, when he speaks to the public, he wears, bright pink sweaters? I mean, there must be something wrong with him, And that's what they'd rather report on.
Yeah.
Like we had a meeting in Wicklow.
Thank you for drawing attention.
We had a meeting in Wicklow where we're the leader of the party was there, and the founder of the party is there, and you had people in the audience. So what does the newspaper do? Some of the newspapers carry the story, and they took pictures of us. So the printed story was pictures of us, the people behind DDI, and a picture of the person in the audience. Then when the story started to fly in all the papers, on the internet, they never wanted to show the pictures of the people who are actually the party. They only want to show people in the audience, because they're doing anything they can on whatever granular level to prevent that message from getting out there. This message that we're giving is the end of party politics. It'll end it. It'll end the whole thing and put us in charge. Do you think they want to promote that?
Yeah. I'll just say something. I was at a meeting in the RDS, and I won't mention who was up on the podium, but David McWilliams gave a speech, and one of the things that he said, I don't know if it's his original quote or whether he's quoting from someone. He said, a new idea, when a new idea is presented, it goes through three phases. The first phase is ridicule and fun. People make fun and ridicule it, and etc. The second phase is where there is a definite attack on it, and viciousness, and they start attacking people who are promoting the idea.
Yeah.
And the last phase is I always promoted that.
Yeah.
I always accepted. I thought that was always a great idea. Phase.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at the moment, I think direct democracy is in the middle phase, because there's an awful lot of negative comment about it, and I've seen some of the stuff that you're talking about individuals being denigrated, and they go into great detail on all sorts of things, but they don't speak about direct democracy.
Correct. The core philosophy.
They don't actually speak about the core philosophy. And the same thing is true when I've seen some interviews on RTE, etc. These interviewers are very well versed in what they do, and they always guide the person they're interviewing. They always guide them off the track and onto their own personal things, whatever issues they have. It might be property tax, it could be anything, but they go off direct democracy, and they're very skilled at doing this sort of thing. So it's something that needs to be watched with people being interviewed, is to keep bringing it back to the way a politician does. If a politician is sitting in front of someone and an interviewer, and they're trying to bring them off the subject of, say, the property tax, and they say, well, how is your mother doing? And how's it? And the politician will turn around and say, well, she's doing great, but she's very stressed. She got a letter about the property tax the other day. They bring it back.
Yeah.
And I think people need. I know it's a pledging organisation, but people need that to be aware of those sorts of things who are in the public.
We're not career politicians,
know.
most of us. So I had a run-in with Enda Kenny during the last.
I've seen the thing on
YouTube.
On YouTube, yeah.
And
I thought that your answer to him when he said, sure, we'd have a referendum every week. I think you probably should have said, well, I'm glad you recognise that there's so much wrong with the system. We need a referendum every week.
Yeah. But he was very quick at firing questions, because he's the longest serving politician in the Dome, and he's very skilled at just avoiding answering questions, and he didn't answer anything that I put to him, and in the end, his parting remark was, well, direct democracy is fine until it meets reality. Yeah. And my response was, that's why the Swiss are rich and we're bankrupt. And his stock response as he walked out the door was, they didn't have Fianna Fáil in the last go.
There were two other comments that were made at that meeting. I went actually in order to be able to try and get it onto the microphone so I could say something about the direct democracy. But there was a guy, David Blond, he's some kind of a commentator. I think he was an advisor to Blair or someone in the English government anyway. But he actually mentioned this thing of recall, the power to sack a minister. And it got a huge applause. That was one thing that was said by him. And the other comment was by what's her name, Olivia O'Leary, and she was saying that exactly what I was saying. Your response to him should have been that in order to fix the things that are wrong with the country, we'd need a referendum every week. Now, both of those comments are direct democracy, edicts, if you like. They are both, but it was never actually mentioned in fact. That, direct, even though they were speaking about direct democracy, it was never linked. If that was linked to,
but I think that their version of that is that we're in control of the referendum. And we can have a referendum every week, whatever topic we want to have the referendum on. But you can never be in control of the referendum. I think that's more how they see that. And it's the same thing in Iceland. When I was in Iceland, they were rewriting the constitution to include direct democracy into the constitution. And they told me that even there, when they were doing that, the parliament got outraged. So what do you mean you're taking the power of referendum away from us? No, we can never give that up. Yeah, you can have direct democracy, but ultimately we have to have some clause in there that we can step in. Because they don't want to do that. They don't want to put us back in. They don't want to give us the power.
Fine Gael in their program for what do they call it?
The program for government.
Yeah, the program for government is the combined, isn't it? Is the two?
The manifesto or whatever.
The manifesto. Yeah, and in the program for government, if you look at the manifesto, Article 17 or item 17.3, I think it is. It says that the present political system has proven not to be workable, and that they see that the people should have more of a say in the running. That would be their interpretation of. And this is what I'm saying. The fear the fear that I would have would be that they would try and preempt
Hijack it. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
hijack it and
Yeah.
give you a
Yeah, they
warning.
would. I would agree with that. And not only that, but in the present system, if a majority of the Senate and a third of the Dáil
Yeah.
disagreed with a law, they could refer it to the president for referendum. By abolishing the Senate, you could then you can prevent that. So in other words, so I have a feeling that there's stuff going to come down from the European Union that's going to be very unpopular, and right now they're consolidating a lot of power as much as they can, so that if something gets pushed down that's really unpopular, like, oh, let's go to war, and we can, and the Shannon went, no way, and the third of the Iraqis went, no way, and the president went, no way, we had a referendum on it. That's it. We don't have to, So I think that in the background, I think there's some very, very crafty people who understand power and understand what they want to roll out in the future, and these crafty lawyers and people who work with these politicians are analyzing this stuff. I mean, I don't want to be like conspiracy minded or whatever, but if I put myself in their shoes and I ask myself the question, why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? Then that's the only answer I can come up with.
The image of this country now has Europe are telling the governments what to do.
Mm-hmm.
The governments are telling the local authorities what to do. And so even if something's very, very small on the ground, and you think it's a very minuscule thing, in my area down in Wicklow is to do a landfill. And there is a bigger picture that goes all the way back up to the European Parliament.
Mm-hmm.
The European decision about what they want to do,
Yeah.
what they need to do, or maybe what they want to bring in from some other country to here,
Yeah.
get rid of. That we
Right.
don't want to do. But there'll always be a European picture filtered right down to
Right.
a very local picture. And if you think that's only going on locally, you can forget it because it doesn't start at a very that's where it starts now. Every time you can bring it back up there.
And the problem with Europe, I don't have a problem with a federated Europe if it's really democratic. So I've been working with some of the people who are trying to bring direct democracy on the European level, on that level. And by using the European Citizens Initiative, which is a mechanism in Europe that if 1 million people gather signatures around a subject, they can then bring that idea or that subject to the attention of the Commission, and the Commission can go, oh, thank you very much, and doesn't have to act on it, right? But there is a mechanism, for example, water rights or in something environmental, you could bring it to the attention of the Commission, GMOs, whatever it is, but they don't have to act on it, right? And I had a debate with when I was in Switzerland at the first World Conference on Direct Democracy with the politician who was part of that, creating that ECI mechanism. And he said, oh no, that's the same power as the Parliament. See, the MEPs in the Parliament they have the power, the ability to choose the Commission, the President of the Commission and his team, but they don't have the power to actually legislate. All they can do is debate ideas. And that debate then goes to the Commission, but the Commission itself says, thank you, okay, we'll consider that, but doesn't have to rule that way, right? And the problem with the Commission is that a lot of the people who are in the Commission, at the top of the Commission, are also sitting on the boards of multinational corporations.
Yeah.
Right, so that's why you have all these laws that are being rolled out that benefit multinational corporations, maybe one day you won't be able to buy herb tea anymore because they know that it has medicinal properties, and if they can take it away,
Or vitamin C.
yeah, or vitamin C or whatever, so you won't be able to self-medicate anymore, but you have to buy these drugs that they make, at a really high price, plus they might even have side effects. So that's the kind of stuff. I read a book on called The Plutocrats, and that was about the richest people in the world and how they became rich. And a lot of the people on that level became rich because of their political connections. They were able to tilt the political table in their favor. The richest man, for example, Carlos Slim in Mexico, he basically personally knew the president. And by knowing the president, he was able to buy the the contract for privatizing the phone system. And when they privatized it, you weren't allowed to compete with him for, I think, 6 or 7 years, right? But he did that because of his political connections. And so a lot of people, a lot of the multinationals in the United States, all the stuff that's going on, are all very well politically connected, and they're tilting the table to their favor and imposing laws on us, right? So the only way that you can fight back is to implement direct democracy. That's the last thing, and now's the best time to do it, because we're not that far into the European Union, and all of it's still kind of coming together. So if you could implement that power now, or very soon, like for example, if we could have like some wins, like we win in the councils, local councils, and we have some wins in the European election, if possible, then that will blow the doors off. And then when the nationals come around, you might find a lot of people getting elected, and we could actually change the entire government, change everything. The outcome for Ireland, the outcome for the European Union. In the same way that Ireland was a leader in the Middle Ages, after everything fell apart and went dark, and Ireland came out with its missionaries and with their light and spread light into Europe. We could again do that. We're in a position to do that, and it's really up to us. We're a small country, a very small country, and so
It's doable here.
Yeah. So you can make an impact. I no country I've ever been to, I can go, oh, there's the minister. Hey, how you doing? You can actually talk to a minister or whatever. So and you can get media attention. So if we're good at it. So we really have an opportunity that's here before us, and we can all work together. We need people with video skills, musicians, writers, speakers, lawyers, spokespeople. We need everybody. Everybody has to come and join us.
With bright pink jumpers.
Yeah, even as well.
So this is Citizens Initiative is just a small paragraph in a huge EU document, and what it says is any citizen who has a problem with anything to do with the EU can, by getting 1 million signatures. Originally it was across 27 countries. It's now 15 countries. They were very magnanimous. So you have to get 1 million signatures across 15 countries. And when you get those signatures, by presenting them to the European Parliament, they're obliged to look at it. Period. That's it. That's just
the commission.
They just look at it and go, yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that's, it's giving the impression that you have the possible, and having gone through 15 countries and got 1 million signatures, do you really think you're going to go to that much bother if they just only have to go, yeah, right?
There's no democracy in Europe.
No.
We have 4% vote in the EU. Ukraine will join now, Romania will join, and bring down to about 2%.
Mm-hmm.
So
Now you were in a better position before the Lisbon Treaty
it's
because it had to be in consensus.
Yeah.
So you actually voted to give power away. You voted to give your power away for jobs, right?
Remember that? Vote yes for jobs. Where's the
Yeah,
jobs?
it wasn't about what was in the Lisbon Treaty. It's all jobs.
The EU itself is not going to last forever, right?
No.
And I think the core of the EU, and I'll say this, and I'm quite brave in saying this, the core of the EU is we have a German nation who inbred in them is to conquer. We've seen it from the Ottoman Empire right up through world wars. We've seen it, and they have rebooted, and now this time they're trying to do it economically. 92 million people there. Every day they go together at 5 o'clock in the morning, go to work to make things, to make themselves more rich, more powerful. And they're economically trying to do this. At some stage, some countries going to have to sell them someone and say, this is, we've had enough. We've had enough of them taking our fish, our water, our
Oil or gas.
Yeah.
And they're bringing our, and what do you want to put on
Our
top of that at the
wind.
moment? We've got a vegetable war on, which is going to put all the growers in Ireland out of business. And then their products will be back here in Little and Allen.
That's it.
And then we will be able to buy our own stuff.
Yeah.
We're not even growing enough of our own food.
Yeah. Because of the cap
Exactly.
policy. Cap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said before, I've been involved in a local initiative
Mm-hmm.
that ended out with a European tail on. And when that happened, you could really see what the whole thing was about. They needed information about a particular area. they massaged everything up along the way. And it started off in a room with somebody who had an idea that was played along with a local authority, and it moved all the way up to a European level. It's hard to believe. That's what they'll do. You know?
And that's why we need direct democracy. That's
That's
why
why
we
we
need.
need it.
Yeah, we need to take this
Do you-
back.
Do you think the general Irish people will change that quick? The cognitive dissonance, isn't that the term?
It's up to you. It's up to you. It's up to you to articulate this.
Yeah.
It's I'm doing my best to give you the thought forms or the ideas, but it's up to you to tell your neighbor, to tell the person at the bus stop, to tell the person you work with, to tell the person at the pub, to constantly share this idea and question your democracy, and say there is another way. Because I've talked to people. I talked to somebody in a sauna the other day. I was just sitting there and I started chatting, and he'd heard about Articles 47 and 48. And probably the reason he'd heard about that is probably because of Direct Democracy Ireland. He hadn't connected Direct Democracy Ireland with that idea, but that idea is out there now, most likely because of us.
Yeah, and we have actually changed the narrative of Irish politics. I mean, the amount of, you've never heard democracy be mentioned so much since we came on the scene, and in particular direct democracy. I mean, I approached so many politicians over the years. I'm 6 years since I started this. I approached so many politicians in the early stages, trying to get one of them to take it on board, and then I decided, how to do it myself.
Do it ourselves, yeah.
But and they didn't want to know. I approached Joe Higgins. I approached Boyd Barrett. I approached John McGuinness. A whole load of people. They did not want to know. Now, after the Meadeys by-election, after we beat Labour, after we beat the Socialist Workers' Party, after we beat the Greens, all the independents, and came fourth, and we would have won a seat if it had been a national election, because there are 4 seats, and we came fourth. But after that, not too long after that, I heard Joe Higgins on the Pat Kenny show saying we need direct democracy in Ireland.
That's true.
Yeah.
Already trying to hijack the idea. As if,
I actually thanked him on the march when I spotted him for saying
Yeah.
yeah. And he said it twice in the space of 1 minute. Boyd Barrett said something similar in relation to local government. He said we need direct democracy in local government here. Now, you'll hear it. I even heard Eamon Gilmore saying we need to give people more power locally and all this. The idea is changing because of what we're doing.
Yeah.
They're frightened of us, and they will try and take the idea without actually mentioning direct democracy.
But
they're
don't
having
believe
a time.
them. But don't believe
Don't
them.
believe them, because they'll just take it and bastardize it. And
No, they're also say one thing to another.
Yeah.
Like for example, if they know that, for example, before the Green Party came around, nobody had an environmental platform. But after the Green Party had some success, also every party has some kind of environmental plank. They were greenizing because they go, well, yeah, that's selling. We get some votes. So the same thing. If we're successful with direct democracy, you're going to see Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil. They're all going to say, yeah, direct democracy, direct democracy. But the point is, when they get in, they're not going to do it.
they won't do it.
They're not going to do it. When we get in, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. But there's a I have always thought when this started, this is going to be a 20-year thing. But right now I see it could be faster. But it's really up to you all. It's really up to ye to learn about this, to articulate it, to organize events in your areas, and invite us to speak and to keep growing and getting the message out there. That's what we want to do.
There's probably an ideal opportunity coming up in 2 years' time, in 2016,
There is,
100th anniversary.
Mhm.
We could really swing to something that way straight and let everybody know. Also, if this government lasts, there'll be a general election next year.
Yes. Exactly.
And it could be a very, very good, strong time to say, that people who died, in the GPO, this is what they died for.
Yeah.
It wasn't the British that they were fighting the British back then.
Yeah.
Now we're fighting, the EU.
Yeah.
And powers coming. And it could be a massive platform to work
Yeah.
on. It's an ideal opportunity, it's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
But it's like everything, all these things are going to have to be hit very, very hard. We're going to have to work very, and we're going to have to be very vigilant all the time. It's not railroaded and on the way.
Well, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. That's really. You know,
Yeah.
even Switzerland's not safe because they have to keep working at it, and they've refined it over the years as well. They're always refining it and changing things, and they're being attacked constantly by the EU over anything they do. And you know, they've been called almost undemocratic, but you know, they've had a referendum recently on immigration. They're having one, and they had a referendum on minarets on mosques.
They had a referendum on banker salaries, or no, salaries of
Yeah, they
people in multinational corporations.
To cap the salaries of the corporations, the executives of corporations.
Yeah.
And we're told, here, we can't do it. You know,
Yes,
but the people can do it. Nothing stops people doing it.
They don't vote against that though.
No, I don't think
They
they
voted against it, yeah.
voted against it.
What
It,
about
it
the
was a
universal?
vote to have
A cap.
a range
Yeah.
between the lowest
Yeah.
paid and the highest paid.
Now they're having a referendum on a basic wage for everybody, regardless of whether you're working or not. You get a basic wage of 2,000 euros a month.
Something
So
like
you
that.
can never fall below that. Even if you have a particularly good job, you'll get it. A bit like the children's allowance here. Everybody will get it, and regardless, you can't fall below that. And you don't have to even be looking for work.
Yeah.
But the Swiss,
In
they
Switzerland,
like to work.
in Switzerland, everybody has private insurance. So even if you're unemployed and you can't afford insurance, you know, when you're on the dole, they'll make your insurance payment for you. So everybody's insured there. In fact, I'll read out how great, you know, like they've had direct democracy since 1831, and I texted this to myself the other day, and basically what they've accomplished is Switzerland has the highest standard of living based on the analysis of the 7 aggregate statistics. Switzerland leads the other nations by having the highest GDP per capita, lowest government debt, and lowest tax revenue as a percentage of GDP, lowest unemployment rate, lowest inflation rate, highest life expectancy, and second highest average level of education. These impressive statistics indicate that the Swiss government is very efficient in performing its duties, resulting in overall prosperity for the nation. This is a major factor in Switzerland's high standard of living. And all of that comes through direct democracy because the people are not in opposition to the government. The government and the people are on the same page, carrying out the wishes of the people. Because the government knows that if it doesn't, the people can step in and correct the course. So therefore, when they began, they were more like us here. And then slowly but surely, it all came more towards the same page. And that's where they execute really well. You know?
So the people are partners in the political process. And that's the difference. So, pardon me, there's no secrecy. Nothing can be done behind closed doors. They can't have meetings at 3 o'clock in the morning and then just present us with a done deal at the end of that. They can't have things in secret. So everything is open and transparent. And you had the Bilderberg group there last year, I think it was, who met there, and they invited their politicians to attend the meeting. But the Bilderberg group is a closed shop. Nobody gets to report on what happened. And the people just stood up and said, no, you can't go.
Really?
Yeah, they said, you can't go, it's a secret meeting.
Yeah.
You represent us.
Our
You
Minister
can't-
for Finance went to it though.
You can't have meetings in secret
Yeah.
that the people aren't.
Yeah. You want to say
party to,
something? You want to say
Yeah,
something?
I think it's looking at politics in a different way. From the old ways is the divide and conquer mentality,
Mm.
where you have all these different political parties, but they're really serving, as you said, the multinationals or, interest groups, and therefore it's also used because going to different activities, protests about very serious issues that are affecting people, you see that also there's still the divide and conquer, the socialists or the people for profit or Fine Gael or that. I mean, we need to get away from that and
Yeah.
go back to what we need as a people
Yeah,
and come together in the common good for us.
exactly.
And actually, we don't need government at all. We can actually possibly move even further, evolve into something that we look after ourselves. But this is the best, I think, alternative for people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because we also need that who will carry these things, these people that are entrusted to take care of the wishes of the people.
Mm.
So
So you
it's no
get it,
longer
so you
whether
get it,
it's
you get it.
Finagilla or this or
Yeah.
that. It is for the good of
Yeah.
us. We are one nation
Yeah.
and we work together in community at
Yeah.
different levels
Yeah.
to make the best. It doesn't take that much, but still people are very apathetic. There's a lot of this client relationship in politics here, where it used to be very much finna with who do you know, and you go and see your counselor, and then things get done under the table for you, and for the other person that doesn't know somebody in power, nothing happens for them. So, this is very refreshing for me to hear that, because it's about bringing people together as opposed to dividing them,
Sure.
and creating a common platform.
Yeah, there's nothing too wrong with having a government who do things for you, because we can't always, I mean, if you want to build a house, there's nothing wrong with it. You could build it yourself. It'll take a long time. It may not be great, but, it'll be a house. Nothing wrong with employing somebody who has a skill at doing that. But you don't just let them go off and do what they want. You have the right to say, sorry, I want that room a little smaller or a bit bigger or square or round or whatever. And
But what
you
I
get
mean
the
by
house
that
that you
is
want.
It's a responsibility. We all have to take responsibility
Yes.
to rule our own lives.
Yes,
And therefore,
yes,
to create the democracy or the space
yes.
to live with one
Yeah.
another. And I don't think, the governments, the way they are
Yeah.
really addressing that. They're
No, they
addressing
don't.
their own power structure for themselves.
It's a dysfunctional relationship.
Yeah.
Imagine
It's
having
an
a
abusive
partner.
relationship.
Yeah, imagine having a partner that was always having affairs, and you were really unhappy about it, but you really loved the partner. And every and then you basically and every time that you had an argument, the partner promised that they were going to change, and they never changed. What do? Do you continue living in that relationship, or do you consider maybe I should either get out of this or find another partner that I like and that doesn't do that? And that's what we're in. We're in some kind of a dysfunctional relationship with government,
Well,
and they're just saying one thing, doing another. They're not honest. And they're not serving our needs. They're making you criminals. If you don't pay your property tax, you're going to be a criminal. That's ridiculous. And why do you have all those charges? Because the government decided to bail out a private corporation, right? Like in Iceland, they said no, we don't want to bail them out, and then nothing happened, right? And here we are bailing out, and we're giving money back to unsecured bondholders.
Yeah.
An unsecured bondholder is unsecured because he's getting the highest possible interest rate. That's why it's unsecured. The people that the senior bondholders are the ones who get paid back first because they get the lowest interest rate. That's why, like when you have your pension plan, they go, well, do you want to have a more risky one with a higher interest rate, or do you want to have the one with the lower interest rate? And the only reason for that is that every that's called a derivative. Every deal, every investment is split up into three: high risk, medium risk, and low risk. If you take the low risk, you get the low payment. If the deal goes sour, they pay you back first. The guy with the high interest rate, forget it, take a walk. What do? We bail them out. We're paying for this. This is ridiculous. This is so lame, unbelievable.
But we are we are a sick nation. I mean, we've had 800 years of an abusive relationship with the British. We have almost 100 years now of an abusive relationship with our own governments, with our own political system, where from the very start they took away our voice and told us to shut up and do what we're told. So people who are in abusive relationships tend to continue on those sort of things. Somebody on a radio program the other day I was being interviewed said, do I think that we deserve the government that we get? And I said, I don't think we do deserve the government that we get, because if you're a damaged person mentally and emotionally, and you've been brought up, we'll say, by an abusive father, people tend to repeat those things in later life. They end up in relationships with people who have problems with alcohol because that's all they've known. And you can't say they deserve that, but they do have to at some point wake up and to the fact that they are dysfunctional as a person and they have to change that and work to change that. So I don't believe we deserve what we have, you know. And I had another interesting conversation with John McGuinness on a radio program once where I thought I had an ally because I'd spoke to him on a one-to-one basis on several occasions, and he was, you know, a Fianna Fáil guy. And, oh, I love what you're doing, it's great, yeah, it's terrific. And he was vying for Brian Cowan's seat at the time, I think. He had visions of being leader of Fianna Fáil. And he said, oh yeah, I love what you're doing, and I'll support you if you ever get in and all that, and it's great. Keep me up to date, keep me informed. So when I was on the program with him, he was on a phone and I was in the studio. I was expecting to get, you know, I thought that great, you know, when they turned to him, and there was a professor on as well and a phone in, and she was a bit wishy-washy, thought it was a nice idea, but, you know, blah, blah. And then turned to him, I thought, great, I have an ally here. And I just gone through the whole of what direct democracy is. And he kind of was the same. He was, oh, maybe a little bit, but, you know. And I got really annoyed, and I was kind of tired at that point. I'd driven all the way up from Cork at high speed to try to get to the studio on time. And I just lost it. I said, look, we've no democracy in this country, you know, this is a dictatorship, you know. And he went, oh, but you have a vote. And I said, well, give my power away to somebody else to speak on my behalf. And I said, I'm well capable of speaking for myself, and so are most of the people in this country. I don't need somebody to speak for me, you know. And he said, oh, but you get the government that you vote for. I said, hang on a second. And this guy was in government with the Greens, right? Fianna Fáil and the Greens. I said, hang on a second, I didn't vote for this government. I voted for one politician. And I said, I don't know anybody in this country that voted for this government. And then I thought for a second, I said, did you vote for this government? And there was silence. And I said, did you vote for this government? And there was a deadly silence. He couldn't say that he had voted for that government. And I said, there's your democracy. There's a man in government who couldn't say he voted for that government. A Green Fianna Fáil coalition. So there's your democracy. You know? So
I actually can say that I did. Because I was a Green at the time, and they asked us to vote should the Greens go into government with Fianna Fáil, and I thought it should, because I thought that you know, oh yeah, you know, green ideas, you know, environment, you know, protect the air, you know, electric cars, you know, all of that stuff, but not very much of it came through. Yeah, we got bicycles, you know.
Tokens. That's what they do. They'll give you tokens.
Yeah.
The bags got more expensive as well. That's the
Yeah.
bags.
So folks, maybe we'll wind it up now because it's getting on a bit, but if you want to, anybody who wants to sign up, we've forms here to become members of DDI, and look at our Facebook page and our website as well, and there's more information on that, and there's got some.
Norman here is the chair of the Wicklow DDI membership group.
If anybody's interested in joining a core group or getting a wee bit more active, sure, I'll have a chat with you now in a few minutes later.
We're looking for people to run for office too in the local elections, which is probably important. Coming up pretty soon.
Constituencies are covered at the moment, you know.
Which
How many constituencies or how many candidates or proposed candidates?
I'm not sure that stewardship. We sort of have the, you know, it's all divided up in provinces. So we still have people kind of querying the counties and trying. We haven't got the number yet, but we should have that quite soon. You know?
We reckon we probably have about 20 at the moment, or thereabouts.
Yeah, but it's mostly Wicklow, Wexford, Waterford, Cork, and Carlow, Donegal,
Drogheda.
Drogheda, yeah.
Three.
Mead.
Me, yeah.
Mead, yeah. So thank you very much for coming tonight. I hope it's been informative, and hope anybody who hasn't signed up will sign up.
Okay.
Put your email address down if you want to get updates or anything like that. Thank you.
Thank you.